conversation or if it was because I had stayed up so long. I was really uncomfortable. And now it seems like there's a bunch of things going on with Nick. And I don't know what's going on. I just saw some of the videos today. So I'm not up to date on what's going on. But
If I may, you may have been uncomfortable not because you were picking up on something on Nick, but probably because you hadn't slept in like 24 hours. And, being INTP, chances were you probably were sitting on your ass for too long and your body was like, move, fucking
He may
move,
have been picking
Zachary.
up on something. I mean, he's been involved in a lot of these things. I don't know. I didn't really pick up on anything terribly significant initially. I mean, I picked up on his ENTP smarminess, but I recognize it as inherent to the type.
The first red flag that I got that I just ignored because I was like, it's not enough of a red flag, and I give people a few red flags. I'm like, you know what, we're all human. His first thing was, I care about you, man. I was like, I mean, we've known each other for a week, but I mean, okay, some people are just chipper. It's like he kept saying, I care about you. I'm like,
So,
okay.
Zachary, what background information do you know or not know? Because just the story is simply that Nick has been around for a while, and then he brought his friend Kevin into the room. At least Kevin was drunk, and the general consensus seemed to be that Nick was acting fairly drunk as well. Nick's senses denied being drunk. Regardless, they were being unpleasant in a couple of different ways, and one of them was being making some overtly sexualized comments in a very inappropriate context. I think is fair to say, and so as a consequence, there was a little bit of scolding went on where I went and called Kevin a fucktard, and then you
I'll
know
be back.
and then later on I went in. They came back. I don't remember exactly what happened. The bottom line is there was a couple little things happened that day where I expressed that I found this annoying. And then there's this other thing with this message that somebody sent one of the females that was the same level of inappropriateness as the comments, which is say not terribly inappropriate, not intolerably so, but enough to make me be like, okay, take your douchebaggery elsewhere, please, because you're kind of messing up my fun a little bit here today. I'm having a pleasant conversation with these people, and now I'm not. So there was that. That was basically what happened. So in the aftermath of that, Nick made an effort to refocus the whole issue on the. Yeah, it wouldn't have been a big deal. Exactly. It would have been nothing. It would have just blown right over and been nothing, except Nick made a big deal out of it. And specifically, he made a big deal about the
you shut
suggestion.
him down.
No, the suggestion had been made, not by me even, but that the message that was sent, the text in the chat, the private chat message, was sourced from Nick and or Kevin under a fake name in the room of some sort. Now, the thing is, again, that text message was one example of the problem, not the problem itself. Okay? The chat message was not any different, better or worse than what they were saying out loud verbally. But he latched onto the fact that he had been accused in some way of sending something, but it had been sort of suggested, but nobody actually accused him of it. And the most logical thing to conclude is that this is an example of the same set of behaviors in which we had ample evidence of them being guilty of it. And so he latched onto the message part and pretended as though the problem was the message, that everything else that day was fine.
Like as if someone made a fake name or something.
Well, I mean, that's what the suggestion was, that when you enter GTM, you have a quick moment. If it doesn't save your name and email, you have a quick moment to change your name. And if you change it quick, then people might not notice that. Basically, it's easy to come in under a different name. Mm-hmm. So the suggestion was floated, sort of, that probably Nick or Kevin had sent that message, which would have been consistent with what they were saying, even though they weren't in the room right at that moment. But again, that wasn't the problem, quote unquote. That wasn't something that people were mad at anybody for. It was just the reality of the moment. But Nick chose to make the whole thing about that, about the fact that the message had been sent, like as though that was the problem, and as though prior to that everything was fine, but that message sent things into a tizzy. And then his theory is, or was, or I don't know, that I had sent the message in order to orchestrate a commotion so that I could come in and save the day.
Well, I'm here to reveal that I was the one, in fact, who sent the message. It was all my plan.
You're way too behind. At like half of Talking with Famous People has already claimed that it was.
I was 3 steps ahead of all of you. You didn't anticipate my vector in there.
By the way, quick interjection of a feeling moment here. Zach, when I was insinuating that you didn't pick up on something, that was just me being insecure about the fact that I didn't pick up on it sooner. I know that may not seem relevant, but that's me expressing feelings. So.
I mean, I don't know. That could just be like my unconscious NI trying to tell me something, and can't really rely on that shit. But I don't know. I mean, when I talked to you and Nick that night, it was like, it was a decent conversation. It just felt a little tense. Like, it felt like kind of weird to me. But that doesn't necessarily imply anything. But I don't know. But yeah. So what really caught my attention was when I watched a little bit of the video where Nick is like trying to explain his positioning or something, and he starts throwing out all the cult leader stuff, and I was just like, what the hell is this? And then I had to watch some of the other videos to try to fragment together. I kind of got the idea that there was some sort of message he sent. I didn't know what the context was, and I know that he was trying to not take responsibility for something, but I didn't really have enough information, so it was really weird.
Well, a couple more pieces of information would probably be helpful. So after they were douchebaggy and that message thing happened, then later on he came and said, "Hey Eric, can we talk?" He came. This is the first time I'd seen him since that, and had done nothing right about it because there was nothing to be done because it was nothing. It was just shit happens. Sometimes you're drunk and you do stupid shit, whatever. But you try. Don't double down. So. He comes into to get me out of this room and talk separately in a different room. We talk for a while, and basically he's asking me advice, and I say, well, look, whether or not you're falsely accused is irrelevant. And I told him, just don't go and try to make everything better by keeping talking until you get everybody convinced of what you're saying, because I know that's what we do. But of course, that's exactly what he came and did. He didn't fucking listen to a word I said. He did exactly the opposite of everything I said. So, then I left that private chat and came back and didn't think much more about it. Then I made a video saying what our private conversation had been about in general, because like I said to him, I'm like, do you want me to record this? I'm assuming you don't want me to record this? I don't, then I won't, it's fine. And so I didn't. And then I made a video saying, so this is what this was, and a little drama and whatever. At the end of that video, I talk about how I have a tendency to, I make a joke about, like, well, I'm not even sure why she sent the message to me. Like, why don't, if you don't like it, tell them to go fuck off. Or
who did you send the message to? Do I know them or not? And then they sent the message to you? They sent like a screenshot or something?
Yeah, they sent it in the private chat of GoToMeeting. She received it in the private chat of GoToMeeting. She sent it to me as an example of, because I was sitting there saying, I kind of feel bad for calling or shutting down Kevin so hard, calling him a fucktard and all that kind of stuff. But she said, don't feel too bad. And then she sent me that text as an example of their bad behavior. Now, she immediately she also said, I don't know for sure this is them, but this is the sort of stuff they were doing, like, and I know that's what the sort of stuff they were saying because I heard that shit. So I'm like, okay, cool. I just saw it, but I wasn't gonna do anything. There wasn't anything to do. It was just okay. They were being drunken douchebags. I get you. It's worth like sharing the information with me if you feel like sharing it with me. That's fine. In the video, that first video I made, at the end of it, I played it off different than it was really, which is I said, and so I'm not sure why she sent it to me, but if you've in general. If you got a piñata and you're like, would you like to hit the piñata? I'm like, well, you don't want to hit the piñata yourself? I did that little metaphor, right? It was not accurately reflecting my conversation with Nick, but it didn't purport to accurately reflect that conversation. It purported to be a description of my tendencies in general. So it was a little misrepresenting, but not bad. I think that is the part of the video that pissed him off. It's the part where I made that piñata thing. And so I think he was determined to.
Eric.
What?
Eric, we have Nick here. He's on his phone right now.
He's welcome to hear all this. I'm not done telling the story.
No. Yeah. Go ahead.
So, then he came into the room, the raw room. At some point I wasn't in here, and instead of listening to me, he doubled down and tried to say not only that. Tried to sort of redeem his own name, tried to position it as not doing that, but the opposite, and blah 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 blah, and then basically said, "Here's my theory of the crime: it's that Eric set all this up, that he sent the message, and then he quickly backtracked from it was all premeditated to, well, you didn't really mean set the message; you were just taking advantage of opportunities, stuff like that, but." Of course, it didn't make any sense because did I send the message on purpose or not? Was it for the purpose you say? If it was, then why? And why doesn't, so it broke down immediately upon any scrutiny. It had no TI solidity to it. So I let him get away with it for 2 times. And then the 3rd time, I had to shut the shit down.
So where does the whole cult leader stuff come in?
Well, so after he'd seen that video about the piñata thing, he went and quote unquote did some research. But instead of researching me, like instead of watching videos of mine to see if I actually behaved that way, he researched cult leaders so he could find some information about cult leaders and try to link it to me.
It's an interesting way to get an analysis on someone.
Yeah, but then when he came into sort of on the first occasion, he came in and tried to sell this story. I wasn't in here, but nobody in the room was buying it at all, and they were all trying to say, like Unify was in chat going, "Nick, stop!" exclamation point, because I think, and I don't think Nick understood, is that they were doing that for him because they didn't want him to lose all of his credibility or to lose their respect or to make that big of a mistake. It wasn't because they were rushing to my defense. It was because what he was saying, it rang as the worst kind of smarmy, like, let me maneuver you shit. Let me maneuver you with FE only and position it as TI sound. And so on this 3rd occasion, when he came in, I turned the tables finally. It's okay, enough. I'm not going to play your contingent level game anymore. I was curious enough for a while. But I point out the fact that in order to accuse somebody of something, you need to have an ethical standard. And that ethical standard needs to say, if I don't have enough, at least this much adequate to substantiate my accusation, it's not ethical for me to make it because it's dragging someone's name through the mud on the assumption that my gut about this is right. And this is assuming Nick was being honest about his gut at all at any point. And I seriously doubt it because there's the theory of the crime, so to speak, is so outrageously inconsistent and illogical that if he gave it any scrutiny at all, it would fall apart instantly. It requires me to be some sort of super magician or to just be so bumbling that I keep making mistakes and then compounding them by doubling and tripling down. I don't double down and triple down on my mistakes like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, it just seems kind of. I mean, I think it's pretty well like apodictic that you didn't send like some. You didn't make some elaborate plan to expose Nick as some sort of like, you know, to isolate him or something. I'm pretty sure like.
His claim is that my motive was to create a commotion that come in and save the day, quote unquote. But the way he justifies that is by saying, here are some traits of ENTPs, and here are some broadly painted traits of you, Eric, that we all agree you have, like maybe that you enjoy being the center of attention, or maybe you enjoy being a warrior for justice. He's taking those general traits and then trying to use those to justify a conclusion that I therefore did a specific bad act. So in other words, just because I love cheese is not a reason to conclude that I am the one who stole the cheese. That's not an adequate reason because that's not factoring into the equation that individuals are people of character. They behave consistently in ways that relate to ethics, if they're ethical. And it's worse than just not that. Yeah, go ahead, Zachary. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I would like Nick to come on here to discuss this if he's.
I think he's not home yet. Is it so when he gets on, you'll probably be able to hear more.
He's still trying to justify his quote unquote suspicion, but that's not what's at issue here anymore because I decided to stop playing that game. So what's at issue is your lack of ethics in making the accusation without adequate substantiation. Trying to claim that you did have adequate substantiation when you obviously didn't because it's obviously false and you couldn't come up with a single example of me doing something comparable. Well, that's the issue then. There's no other issues to be talked about. Didn't I do the same with what? I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't ever accuse him of anything. I've said it multiple times. I never accused him of anything. And I said, Nick, you didn't do anything wrong. Now you have.
I'll be right back.
You mean the most recent video? The most recent video, I absolutely accused him of it because in the most recent video, he had attained the thing I had accused him of. There's no doubt about it. He's unethical. We know that because I asked him the ethical standard question. I said, did this meet your own ethical standard? He said yes. But then when pressed to provide any substantiation for the accusation, he could provide none. And therefore, he's unethical because if his ethical standard that he met, he says, requires him to have no substantiation for a suspicion before he accuses people of it, then that makes him unethical because he's not considering how the impact of the accusation happens, what the impact of the accusation has upon the accused. And false accusations without any substantiation at all are tantamount to slander. Which vid's leaving his character under suspicion? First of all, remember, I was responding to an accusation that I had done something wrong. I had never accused him of anything. I had given him good sound advice when he came and asked me for it. So at this point, am I going to, first of all, again, the one key difference here is his words were, Eric definitely did it. My words were, he didn't do anything wrong, and I didn't accuse him of anything. No, I did not be Nick Gary. I never said anything. My point in all those videos was that the fucking authorship of the message didn't matter. That was a red herring, and it's a red herring that's worked on you. The issue is not and never was who sent that message. It didn't matter. It was assumed to be part of the ongoing string of douchebaggery Nick and his friend were engaged in. If it wasn't, who cares? That it's like, oh, you mean that this we were going to buy a bunch of grapes, but one of the grapes has been removed from the bunch of grapes now. So let's focus on the fact that that grape was once wrongly attached to this bunch. Maybe. Why? That's not the point. It's irrelevant. And to say like, oh well, that one grape was actually Eric, and the only reason he took that grape off of that bunch of grapes is so that he could save the day when grapes were being removed or something. It's insane, and it's unethical to accuse somebody of that when you don't have any substantiation. Period. I did not do the same thing at all. Okay? Not remotely. An accusation is Eric definitely did it. What I said was Nick did nothing wrong, and I'm not accusing him of anything. And to the extent that prior to today's video, I didn't even call into question his ethics or motivation. Today's video, I had ample cause to do so. I waited to make such a video until I had substantiation. That's the difference between him and me.
Who is the person that was the constant variable, I guess, in all of this? Who was the person that got messaged?
Light bulb.
The light bulb. The redhead?
I
Right?
think he's kind of blonde. Or is it kind of maybe sort of strawberry blonde? I don't know.
Yeah.
Has she? What have her comments been on this? Has she conveyed her perception of it?
She has said almost nothing about it at all. I mean, the thing is, the fact that she sent me this message, I don't know if I've adequately conveyed the extent to which it was part of a general conversation about what was going on, you know? And what was going on was Nick's drunk ass friend being a complete fucking douchebag and Nick not helping much. And he wasn't being as bad as his friend, but he wasn't helping much.
Okay, so Nick, what do you want out of this? Like, what is the solution here? From your perspective, what would be required to alleviate any wrongdoings?
He should be asking that question, not you.
That is a very crisp apple.
It's delicious.
Sounds like you're tearing paper.
It is delicious. It is great. They're called Honeycrisp apples. I don't know if they're specific to Kentucky, but
Look at this shit.
Ohio, I get them too.
Look at this shit. There are certainly enough problems with my delivery to say my initial reaction was unethical. I didn't articulate myself well in the beginning. Is it your intention to suggest that your claim still has validity for some new reason? Is that your intention?
well, first, no. Okay, we're trying to bring it back constructive, Nick. First, let's get an idea of what.
Now it's not
from
constructive now that you're being held to account, huh? Sorry, Zachary, go ahead.
I just want to know what Nick thinks is okay. Nick, I want you to at least convey to me, because I don't know about any of this yet. I'm just now hearing about it, right? Convey to me what you think was wrong and how it could be reconciled, if it could be. I think that's the key to see where the fundamental disagreements are.
Yeah. Or which criticisms of me do you think are still valid? You still claim are valid?
Right, yeah.
I didn't say it was you ever. But even Lightbulb never accused him. She just suggested that it was part, and I'm not saying that's not its own kind of accusation. But Nick said at first it was definitely Eric. But beyond that, he has persisted through this process and still trying to suggest and maintain that there's some validity to his claim or some validity to his point, including the conversation today. Even though he could give me not a single example of comparable behavior that would suggest that such an action was remotely likely by me. All he can do is provide general qualities of the AHP and conclude that therefore I'm guilty of these specific bad implementations of those qualities, when I am actively and specifically self-developing to not implement those qualities in a bad way.
If we're playing the game of whether or not it's possible, then can we go through the infinite permutations of things in reality that could be possible, like a hollow earth or a flat earth or lizard people? If we're just playing the game of possibilities or even probabilities.
And did I mention also the fact in the video that I wasn't thankful to people for coming to my defense, but rather for holding the facts into account, which was, yes, it was possible that it was me, that you shouldn't eliminate me as a suspect. That was my point, not yours. Your point was that it was likely me. So we went from definitely to very likely to possible, and don't seem to understand that to the extent that you were saying anything other than, oh shit, I completely fucked up, I am so sorry. The fact that you're doing anything other than that, you're trying to maintain some sort of suggestion of some validity being maintained, tells me that you haven't learned a goddamn thing. So, I don't know.
How long into your home, Nick?
I mean, it doesn't matter what you say. It's obvious that you're only trying to fix perceptions. You don't have an ethics that you refer to that actually controls your behavior at all. There's no standard. When I asked you if it met your standard and you said yes, the true answer was I don't have a standard. If I asked you to define it right now, you couldn't. It would be some vague ass shit like, well, if it's good for people or something like that. You have no fucking idea what it means to be ethical or not. You haven't thought about it. It didn't matter to you until now. Now it does, though, and you can redeem yourself by learning some things and fucking trying to hold yourself to account in a real way. Not convince others that you hold yourself to account, but actually hold yourself to account.
That's not justification. You can't say, see, this is what I mean. If what you mean is in question, you can't cite what you mean as justification.
My response has been shit. You're right. I was way too gentle with you for the first 2 occasions. Right. I mean, if I hadn't seen you, if I hadn't seen myself in your struggles, I would have brought the hammer down seriously, faster. But I decided to play your contention level game, and it was a conscious decision to argue out your points instead of going framework because I was being accused of something. I wanted to make sure I established my innocence, and I want to make that clear. Not only have you failed to meet the burden completely and unsubstantiated it completely, and that's the ethical problem. The reality is I am innocent, not guilty. I'm innocent of this. I have nothing to do with anything of this fucking incredible scheme you've dreamed up that is logically impossible. Because I'd have to both be either a mastermind to anticipate that I'm going to send this message and you're going to show up and drag me into a private room, and that then you're going to do the exact opposite of what I suggest. It's insane. Or you keep saying, well, you're just playing with the opportunities. I'd still have had to make the mistake of sending the message in the first place. And why would I do that? You say, well, why would I had company over? I was doing other things. What if that's a good enough excuse for you? I was doing other things too. I may not have had company over, but it doesn't mean that I sent a message, right? I made a song that was sort of trying to bridge the challenge of dealing with your friend Kevin. It's called Song for Kevin. If you listen to it,
I want to know. I think I want to know what both of you guys think that should be happen, or what should occur to resolve all of this.
well, look, he says that's not the scheme. So instead of learning that making shit up isn't going to work, he's made some new shit up. So I think we need to hear the scheme first. And then, because for me to feel as though I'm satisfied that Nick isn't a complete scumbag, I'm going to have to see some sort of willingness to make decisions about beliefs and what to say based on reality rather than what he'd like the outcome to be. All right, so this is an example of what I was talking about, taking a general thing and deducing from it a false specific. I do like to troll, but if you were to evaluate how I like to troll, you'll notice that my history of trolling includes a character named National Butt Cheek Day who comes in and advocates for Butt Cheek Day. It includes a character named Can't Understand Nouns who comes in and makes jokes that include the fact that he can't understand any of the nouns you're saying. There's also a character today named Vernon Hudds who came in and explained that he has a time disability. There was a character named, I forget what that other guy's name was. But anyway, those are the kind of trolls I make. And note that none of those trolls are people actually convinced for 1 second that it's anybody but me, because I'm not trying to hide it, right? I have never done anything like that. Never. Now, if you cared about the truth rather than your point, you'd be doing research by watching my videos and things I say and behaviors I engage in, and there's 3,000 of them, so take your time, and evaluating me on my behavior, not on your specious links. Well, Eric, you like racehorses, so you're the one who must have killed the horse. Well, Eric, you enjoy being the center of attention, so you must have sent a message to make light bulb uncomfortable, because why? Right, Colin, it's not evidence. It's suggestion and innuendo. It's the worst sort of ethical sloppiness. The worst sort. You're not holding yourself to account for shit, dude. You've got no ethics. If you had a standard that you were applying here, what is it? By what standard do you have to meet before you accuse somebody of something? For your own reasons, not for some external purpose, for your own reasons. Do you have an actual ethical standard? Okay, well, Nick, you say you have an ethical standard, but it doesn't include any evidence, does it? You don't have to have any evidence to accuse somebody of something, do you? Nick, do you have to have evidence to accuse somebody of something? Well, for example, this is what's not evidence. You like attention. That's evidence of something that could be turned into a motive story. evidence would be you've done this shit before, and the circumstances were similar. So, okay, circumstantial evidence, maybe there's an actual indication that I have a tendency to do that kind of thing. Okay, not pure speculation, but at least some pattern of bad behavior before, maybe. Or something like, for example, if the message had been sent and then I sought you out and said, hey, Nick, I think they think it's you, right? You haven't explained your new scheme to me. You have another scheme.
Here's the problem, Nick. You just said I was accused by you first without evidence.
I didn't accuse you of anything.
You don't have evidence towards Eric that essentially it's like what, an eye for an eye? Well, what's the reasoning here?
Right. See, Nick, even if that were true that I accused you first without evidence, that doesn't make it okay for you to accuse me without evidence. Okay? But it didn't happen either. You can't even say what it is I accused you of.
Nick, what do you want to do to resolve this? What are you wanting out of this? Like your name cleared or what?
Your name cleared? What do you think people... Well, I mean, if this is good time for you, it's interesting enough, I suppose. If you're just here to play games and troll, I will just start dismissing you from the room. If you actually are trying to make arguments, that's fine. If you're just here to do that, then I'll just start dismissing you from the room. Or it's possible that you're just not smart enough to understand what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't think so. You seem bright, but it could just be a display thing. Well, the thing is this: he might be trolling us, but it's not a good troll, because a good troll will preserve his own ethical high ground. Otherwise, you're not so much of a troll as you are just a menace. And, you know, achieving the goal of everybody thinks you're a fucking scumbag is, I guess, something, but I don't know if it's a desirable goal.
Can we have a recess so I can become formally acquainted with Ken?
Yeah, sure.
That sounds nice.
I'm going to turn my mic.
The story of how the host Ken originated, because I'm still running the channel, but I mostly only... Wait, go on.
It was in a vat, actually, a petri dish initially. It's where I found my first flowerings. But go ahead, continue.
I still am around the channel, but I mostly just I still watch a lot of Eric's music videos, and then every so often I watch his vlogs when there is one. And when there's some juicy drama going on, I gotta jump into that too. But yeah, I know that you've been a part of the channel for a while now, and I enjoy your solo videos too.
Well, thanks.
But I don't remember when you like came in, or I feel like you came in before I left, kind of. But it was like a weird. I don't know.
I had my typing video right around the time that you had I think it was called either TwFP or it was Host Eric and Host Zachary Talk Changes. It was that video where Eric mentions he had sent you a message that he was going to buy you out. That was, yeah, Unify got it right. Host Ken got his tits cut off in Nigeria, and Eric saved him from the drug lords raping him. Done. That was it.
No, Unify, that's wrong. That's how Eric met me. You're getting it conflated. Yeah, easy mistake. Ken and I look kind of alike.
Vaguely.
Sometimes I get it mixed up. I start thinking about my origins, and I get it mixed up with Ken's origins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did my typing video. I was like, oh, I'm just going to be an introvert and hide in the back here and not cause any. And Eric's like, famous person Ken. I'm going to be typing them tonight. I was like, oh, okay. So we did that. That was fun, and then I hung around for a few weeks, just did some videos and stuff, and then I brought up, I was like, well, what would be cool is if somebody could make videos for the channel if they didn't want to make their own channel. They can just like make a few videos themselves, and Eric was like, yeah. And then at some point Eric was like, hey, you want to be host? Because he just started calling me host a couple of times, so then it would turn one. I changed my name to recently appointed host Ken. I think I may have actually become the high priest of whimsy before I was before I took the title of host. I think I actually achieved high priest of whimsy before.
You were pretty well.
Oh yeah. It was just it kind of happened fast, really. Took
It
about a
seemed like
month.
it happened fast. It seemed like it definitely happened fast. Yeah, you seem like you have a good. The videos I've watched you in GTM, you're good at keeping the conversation flowing, and it seems like you're in here a lot too. And I used to be
I'm
pretty
not doing
addicted.
much else. What was that last bit?
I used to be pretty addicted to this stuff too. It gets addictive. It really is. I mean, especially when you upload personal videos, and you see all those comments.
The always open room is an entirely different dynamic. It's like you just come in and there's people already having a party.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
The other thing about the dynamic of this room is the dynamic is determined by the community as a whole, whoever's here, It's not determined by there's no indicated way to use this or things you're supposed to do. So, for example, one thing you might choose to use it to do is to come in here and talk to the community about why I'm such a terrible person. And you're certainly entitled and welcome to do
Eric.
that.
Two on the nose, Eric.
I'm just saying you could. And I encourage you to do that because I'm in favor of that sort of thing in general. Free expression and making sure everybody has a chance to have their voice heard.
Okay, cool story. Another example, at like 9 a.m. one morning, me and Casual INTP were playing guitar. We're doing that in the Always Open room. We've had several drawing sessions. That was fun. So yeah.
What about drawing sessions? Oh, I see what you're saying. Never mind.
We all sit around.
Remember, I was thinking of some sort of like card drawing or something.
No. Drawing and quartering. We killed a couple people.
Huh. But I see what you're saying. Yeah, the drawing sounds pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it definitely seems like the Always Open Room has kind of developed its own. It's really helped the community kind of thrive because remember I mentioned before, does Loren still come around? He still comes around.
On occasion.
Yeah.
Loren saunders in on occasion.
I mean, he mentioned before that sometimes by the time that Eric and I were heading out, other people weren't really done. They were ready for more. And sometimes it's hard just keeping conversation going. But if everyone comes around on their own, then it kind of develops their own community. It's autonomous.
Yeah. And then Papa Eric can drop in and watch all the kids playing. And then he can be like, oh, delightful, and then, I don't know, run off to Denny's or get caught up in pruning weed or something. Means he doesn't have to stay stationary, he can move.
What's your life story here? Like what? How old are you?
Man. How old am I?
Yeah, how old are you? Like what's your life been like the past few years? How'd you come across the channel?
I'm 21 years old. How old are you?
I'm 19.
Okay. Sorry, before I go into the story, you talked about Honeycrisp, and I think you were talking about related to geography or something. And I was like, we have them too. It's Ohio. It's like southern Ohio, so it's like close enough.
We're actually pretty close then. I'm Eastern Kentucky, so.
Uh-huh. But yeah. So last few years, I'm trying to think. Last few years, well, I mean, there was like high school. I can pretty much start with school, because let's start with the saucy stuff. With school, I pretty much hated it. I hated going to school a lot of the time. Well, it wasn't so much that I hated it. I hated the actual school aspects of it, like having to sit down, do the work, show your work, things like that. Interestingly enough, I got in trouble in school primarily for my creative block, NI and FE. I got in trouble for daydreaming and socializing, was primarily what I got in trouble for. So I went through school, ended up being homeschooled from 8th grade to graduation. No sort of an interesting change in pace, but the downside was I did a whole lot less of the socializing. So I spent quite a bit of time in my head. So that was part of it. So I spent a lot of time in my head. I got out of school. I went to college for like not even a full semester. Went for half of a semester. I realized, oh, this costs a considerable amount of money, and I realized I don't know why the hell I'm here. So I stopped going. Stopped going to college, dropped out, got a job as a janitor. I was just sort of doing that, so that I could work while trying to figure shit out. Did that for a few months, then I ended up getting a job at a warehouse, worked there for 10 months. My car got totaled, stopped working there, went back to the janitor job, and have been working there since. While I was at the warehouse job was when I first discovered MBTI. It was that 16 Personalities website. I can't remember exactly why, but I think I discovered it because at my job I wasn't feeling fulfilled at the warehouse job. Not so much in like a grand scheme, like it's not glamorous enough. It wasn't anything like that. It's just I noticed that in some ways I didn't. I was noticing that I didn't function quite like other people at the job.
Kim,
it was like
you are one spoiled fellow. There is nothing more fulfilling than working at the warehouse. You get to look at the order form. You get to put the order in a box. You get to close the box. You get to put something on top of it. And you get to put it on another thing. It's endless fun.
Pretty structured.
Yeah, pretty structured. My favorite thing to do was bounce around from job to job to job. So I'd like to do one job in one part of the building, another job in another part of a building, another job in another part of a building. Problem is, that rarely ever happened. They just stuck me in one place for a lot of the time, so I ended up going batshit kind of slightly. So I did that. When I had first taken that 16 personalities test, I had gotten INFP. I was just like, okay, I guess that's what I am then. I guess I'm INFP or whatever. I didn't know anything about cognitive functions. FIFE, I didn't know anything about that. I just, decided, okay, I got this INFP result. Seemed fine for then. Then, after I was out of the warehouse job, I was sort of moping around the house for a while. Back at the janitor job. Spent a lot of time moping, playing video games, things like that. Then at some point I decided, okay, I'm going to start like exercising, trying to take care of my health better, things like that. So then I got into MBTI again, and I tried taking the test again. I got INFJ this time. Still didn't quite know what that meant. I was like, okay, INFJ, that's okay, I guess that's what I am now, or something like that. Was pretty much, there were like things from previous years that had piled up in terms of like emotional stuff. I ended up having sort of like a existential crisis. Ended up going back to, because I was raised religious, Protestant Christian. I ended up decided to be a Christian again. That lasted for like 4 months. died a fairly quick death around February this year. Um,
What made you leave the faith again?
just I figured I'll give it a go again because probably chances were that, like the
God turned him down.
right no the sort of not really arguments but the qualms that I had with myself I didn't realize were more or less related to my I mean it wasn't quite this but in a way it was kind of like super ego. It was like, you know, like in socionic stuff like that, it was like basically I figured, oh, I didn't do well with the religion stuff because I just didn't do enough. I wasn't smart enough about it. It was like, you know, I didn't take it seriously enough or, you know, whatever. So I figured if I just, you know, was more serious and actually tried, then it would be different. I felt like I did try for quite a while. But I started noticing that as I started encountering people, pastors, their dogma, their doctrine, different things like that, I started realizing I don't agree with what these people have to say. Like it just, there's something off about it that I don't like.
Yeah, I grew up in a Baptist family as well, and I still have a lot of arguments with my parents. I would identify myself as a pretty religious person, but I don't view those same elements in any of the traditions today. There are obviously some remnants, but I think Protestantism is definitely completely flavored by moralism. It's just complete sentiment. It's not based on any transcendent principles. It just seems degenerate to me. And I had a lot of arguments with my parents over that when I was younger, and that I went through a similar thing that you did actually. I left school early, and I basically lived like the neat life for a few years, like 3 years or so. I just didn't leave my room, and then I eventually got out of that. And I think coming on here definitely helped me improve my social skills. I think coming on here definitely helped me improve that, which were quite deteriorated after spending so much time alone.
Yeah.
You seemed socially capable when I first met you, Zachary, right away. You didn't seem
See,
rusty.
people tell me that, but like from from my perspective, I feel like I'm barely making it. Like I feel like I'm struggling to like barely talk to people. But people tell me that I have good social skills, which is really weird. You
But
know?
I also agree that you got a lot better over the course of the time that we did them. You know, like at first you came in, I thought you were really strong, but you got a lot better. Ken's already gotten a lot better too.
Hmm.
At this, anyway, I don't know. For me, it generalizes well as social skills. I don't know if Ken really needs it to generalize well to social skills. It's probably harder for him to make media, I suspect, than just be friendly with people in the world.
The thing that's sort of still weird for me is when people give me compliments or stuff like that, or that they're honestly like, "Hey, this thing you did benefited me." It just seems odd to me because I'm not, you know, used to hearing that. Um, so yeah, yeah, I don't know.
It can be challenging to deal with because affirmation is a dangerous drug if you like it, you know? But from my perspective, anyway, I'm not worried about it for me just because I'm 45 and I had a long enough time of not really getting any affirmation to respect it, you know? Like I respect it for what it is, which is hard to get. This is going to be a challenge that Connor here has probably. It's going to be a challenge for you guys too. As you like, Zachary got a lot of affirmation. Host Ken's learning how. Zachary was more successful right away in terms of views, for sure. But and part of the reason was he was being strategic. He was making some videos that he didn't necessarily love the topic of because he knew they'd be effective, and he was right, of course, because this was all TI derived thinking, strategy thinking, right? So it was a very sound strategy. And in fact, those videos are still my best performing videos. You know?
INTP Love Life.
Yeah, well, the INTJ women one. Actually, I came up with the title for that though.
Yeah, that one was brilliant because, like, it just seems like it just I don't know. It seems like they could apply to a lot of types. Honestly, it was really right in there. And plus, the reason that INTJ was the best one is because if you go on Reddit, the INTJ subreddit, I don't know if it still is, but it used to be the biggest one on there. And INTJ is very, very overtyped. I got INTJ the first time I ever took one of the online tests. And it wasn't until later when I realized that I wasn't an INTJ, after I looked into the cognitive functions. But that's why that video did so well, I think, because there are so many people who mistype as that. And I feel like, in a way, they look to confirm that. They read stuff about INTJ and they want to, that to confirm that sort of platonic ideal almost.
You gave them confirmation of the fact that they're loving, they're lovable, they're loved, and they're worth the time and energy to love, right? So it's like people want to hear that about themselves. Who doesn't? No problem. There's nothing wrong with wanting to hear that about yourself. I don't think you said anything dishonest in the video. I think you were careful about that, and so it may be filled with some platitudes, but it served people's emotional needs. And INTJ women, I'm guessing, have fairly simple emotional needs. And it boils down to people think I'm not caring or don't need to be cared for, but I'm both. And you told them, yes, you are, and I recognize it, and I'm handsome young Zachary. And they just like, oh, Zachary.
Do you think that's how it was, or do you think it was more like, and then just like computer code, like certain ones and zeros ran, and they were like,
that's their external display. But inside, in their FI, it's, oh, Zachary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can't get the conception of dashing INTP Zachary out of their head after those videos, for sure.
Yeah. But I guess where I was going with this is you guys are being tasked with learning to be gracious at a much younger age than certainly me and than a lot of people. And as a consequence, hopefully that's one of the lessons that sticks hardest, because that's where the most vulnerability comes. If you're not gracious about shit, about success, then you're subject to certain kinds of attacks that you don't want to be subject to. Or I don't want to be subject to anyway.
Yeah. One of the things, though, about the modesty or graciousness or whatever is that I feel like when you grow up in the South, and you commented on this before, that, like the culture around here, it doesn't matter what an elderly person says. It does not matter. It's they have this sense of respect that you are conditioned to have toward them, and that really, lateralizes around everyone. And I noticed one thing when I went to Utah. There are people who don't have that. There are people who were very rude to me there, and it hurt my feelings. It really did hurt my feelings when I was there in Utah. There was a lot of good stuff too, but there was a few times, especially at the airport.
Was one of those people me that was rude?
No. It was mostly at the airport, like random people. Just like
usually when people say that, and they don't say you were rude to me, Eric. Usually when they talk about someone was rude to me, and they're talking to me, but they don't say it was me, they mean it was me.
No. I'm in general talking about the people. Being in a different city that's so far away from Southern culture. Really, I didn't realize how much of an effect a lot of that stuff has on the people around here. Because around here, it's like I feel like people are afraid to be rude because they think like their grandfather's gonna come out of nowhere and smack them in the face or something.
Hit him.
Whereas
I like how you said so far away from Southern culture by going further south.
Well, it's like it really is different. Like I think it's not.
I know it's Southern culture, but geographically,
it's more about like the metropolitan area. It was mostly the airports. Like Utah wasn't that bad, but the airports were awful. People were very rude to me, and I felt very upset. I was telling Faith about it.
In what way were they rude?
It's just like they like bump into you and just like don't say anything, or they might like step on your stuff or something, or just
That must be just a city thing then. I don't know.
it is a city thing. If someone bumped into
Zachary.
me here, they would feel like they just killed my dog. Like they would really like feel bad. They might write me a letter. But
Oh no.
in the airport, they don't give a fuck. Like they got shit to do, you know. And it is slower out here. It
Well,
really
I will
is slow.
say this is when Zachary felt like he said, "Oh, this is just like home." Was when Delilah and him and I went down into this like little creek area, which is all wilderness. And so I was like, "Oh, this is what it's like around your house, where it's just like rivers in the back country and shit."
Yep.
So
That really was like that was the closest thing to my home in that the entire time I was out there. That really is like what it's like out here. If I go outside my house, there are just mountains and trees everywhere. You can just go out in the forest and
For me, the only country I know is Ireland, right? Because I have family out there that live like in the countryside and it's really rural, and they live out there. But for me, I don't know. I don't know if it's the Irish in general, but they don't really care. Everything's a joke. They're very, very kind of unserious people. And like, if someone bumped into you, they'd make more of a joke about it, mock you about it. I don't have the same kind of charisma. I love the charisma they do have, but it's I don't know. It's a different kind of culture there. That's the only country life I kind of know because I grew in London, so this is the very city for me.
Connor, I want to ask you to comment a little bit more on the affirmation point, because as somebody who's I suspect you probably get quite a bit of affirmation for your rapping. It's very professional level sounding, you know. You do it regardless of anything else. You do it well enough to impress most people and cause them to affirm you for it. I suspect. Just a prediction. So, how do you deal with that affirmation, and are you concerned about what the impact on you might be, or do you think it's all good, or what?
Yeah. In terms of affirmation, like it's a big topic for me because I definitely need affirmation from other people. It's definitely what probably my main motivation. Like if I get, because what it's also different because in terms of environmental, I didn't get affirmation for rapping or anything like that. There was certain things I get affirmation, but a lot of the time I felt neglected because I would let myself be neglected, and I didn't push myself in front of places when I was younger, when I was going through some, states, phases. But nowadays, I tend to want affirmation from my work. Like if I don't like my work, I won't put it out there anyway. So I'm the first kind of barrier towards it. So I have to like it. And I know that other people, like it's easy to please other people now at this point because I know how to rap and I know how to get them to that point. It's not just rap, but public speaking and confidence, things like that. There's a good amount of things that I can be pretty good at. But things like that, affirmation, it's important from other people to motivate me to do things. But if I can't affirm it first, then it doesn't get to them anyways. And I've kind of grown to, higher my standards to get to that point because that's what kind of got me to that point in the first place. I've had very high standards about my work ethic.
So, and I actually don't mean this in any sort of challenging way at all, but just draw the contrast in what do you think about the fact that I tend to want to release a lot more stuff in various media that is less polished maybe than it could be, rather than trying to parse out just the good shit, and that the motivation for that being to sort of free up my creative process. What do you think about that?
Yeah, like that's something I could do as well, and I think maybe I should do more of sometimes because it does restrict me.
I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying it's interesting.
No. I'm not saying it either, but I thought about this before. Like it's not something I haven't thought about. But in terms of you doing it, I think it's like part of your personality. It frees you up entirely. And while I have the same kind of personality, I do I don't know, I set standards because I have my goals. See, that's something I can say about you. I don't see yourself as particularly driven towards like making a massive something like that. You don't really have a goal there. Your goal is to kind of talk to people and just debate about things. You don't have a goal in terms of exposure or something like that, and that's kind of something that I aim for.
I think it's true that my exposure is a lower priority goal but I do have goals monetarily, but those are related to the very exciting collectibles market. Anyway,
Mm.
I don't want to go into that right now, but that's financial stuff, and I actually do want. I would like to be more well known. I'd like to be more famous, but
But I don't
it's a
think you
lower
focus on it
priority.
as goals. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this thing's really meeting the shit out of my needs. That's the thing. Talking with famous
Yeah.
people meets the living shit out of my needs.
I think that there's also, I think maybe when it comes to the difference between Connor, did you say his name was?
Yeah.
Yeah, Connor.
All right. I'm sort of speaking in, whatever. So, sorry, Effie. It's like with rapping and with what Eric's kind of making with a community, I think there's also something a bit different where I don't think it would necessarily be beneficial for talking with famous people to just skyrocket all of a sudden. Because I feel like because it's more community oriented, it's something that has to build up and has to kind of have steps to it.
I actually agree completely with that too, by the way, because it needs scaffold with the collectibles market in terms of the math on that. It'll work out well if it doesn't
I mean,
grow too fast.
that can be related to music because if you think like when you start out, a lot of not just rappers but musicians, they tend to have their fan bases. Like some people have a cult fan base and they're very close and they're very like they know the artist much more better. And then, but like if I wanted a fan base that was very close, and I do, like my aim isn't monetary or anything like that. It's more about experience. I want to do a lot of fucking things in the world. So that's my main goal over money, but money helps me get to those goals.
Right.
So, yeah, it's like we're like close fan base is nice, but it's hard to get. Once you get further out there, you grow to reach a more general audience, and I'm not sure if I want to take that route. But I'd be happy getting enough money to do the things I want without going fully mainstream. But at the same time, drawing back to affirmation, I do want to be known. I want people to know, that I'm fucking, talented, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I want that to be known.
Do you think that if you get affirmed for it, that you will believe it more? Or do you believe it wholly yourself, or do you?
I believe it wholly myself. I just want people to know it. I want it to be known.
What does it mean to say you believe it wholly yourself?
I mean it like I believe I'm at a high level. I mean I have potential as well, but I know that I can accomplish big things, and I don't need other people to tell me I do it because it wouldn't bother me if someone told me I know you can do it because it all goes down to my thought process. I guess it's the introverted thinking, I guess, TI. But it goes down to me first. So I think these out. And if I don't believe in it, then I don't believe in it. It won't get done.
So I'm not disagreeing with any of this, but the thing I'm asking about what you believe in is the why behind you can do it and you'll be successful. Is it based on behaviors? Is it based on something innate? You're going to say, of course, a combination of both, but
I'd say it's more innate.
okay. So you don't. The reason I said behaviors is what I was going to get at was, is it the tendency to try to improve on things and to engage in improvement related behaviors, to me, is the thing that's necessary for the first part to be meaningful. You say that you have room for improvement, but my question is more like, what's your framework? Is your framework you get better in order to get good enough to achieve the thing you want to achieve? Or do you get better because getting better is the point?
See, I know what the distinction is between those two, but I think I aim. Getting better isn't, it's like, I don't think in terms of music, getting better, there's a side of me that believes, like, for the art and everything, I want to be able to look at something that I really felt like I achieved and reflect over it and see, like, that it was something I really, managed to achieve and that made me happy. But at the same time, I do get better to achieve things. But I probably, again, reflect over them a lot more.
Do you think you can master the art form?
I don't think an art form can be really mastered because you can't specialize and there's different things you can do. There's no way there's no objective best in music.
So do you think, though, that within your own works, that some works are better than others?
Yeah, in my head, at least.
So do you aspire to have more of the better ones and fewer of the less good ones, or do you aspire to raise the bar of what better is, or like what are the ways in which
I mean, I think it's in my head more like I know my direction, so I kind of I know if I don't feel something's better than my last work, then I know it. That's how I feel. So I'll keep, until I reach my level of perfection with that, and then I'll move on to something else. But generally, it's always about raising my bar, pushing myself.
Interesting.
Because I also in terms of influences from other artists, like some people go out of their way to learn people's flows and they go out of their way to like study up on their bars and kind of emulate them. Some people like learn to rap by rapping out other people's verses. I tried to do very less of that because I wanted to do something that was more pure to me and came from my mind. So I kind of learned it a roundabout way. It took longer, but I felt like it was more unique to me.
So what's the core, I guess, impetus behind pushing the barrier? Is it a way of liberation, or what's the driving force behind it?
I think it gives me purpose, and it lets me get the experience, like have the experiences I want. It gives me purpose and it helps me to achieve my goals. And purpose is a big fucking thing.
Do you think this experience coming here and talking with us will pay dividends for you in terms of skills, personal skills?
I think there's a lot to be learned, and I have learned a lot. So whether it helps yet, because I have been thinking about this stuff in more detail, and it's kind of brought out the whole possibilities, the perceiving thing in me again. And I guess I was trying to repress that more because I was trying to push myself to stick to things. So that's kind of brought out a new thinking thing, but it's good to explore. I never think there's no point. I shouldn't be blinding myself or anything. I should be looking everywhere I can and then choosing. That's what I feel. And this has helped me also intellectually as well, because you guys use a lot of fucking big words and shit. And I don't get a lot of exposure to that.
Yeah. As Nick just pointed out, and it's a positive contribution to the conversation, which is that you're 17, which is pretty remarkable because you're awfully smooth for 17. You've got a certain successful FE shell, as I like to say for us ENTPs. When you talked about the thing about not wanting to listen to other people's stuff because you want to be organically of your own nature and making, and less derivative of other people's things, I spend a lot of time feeling exactly the same way. I still behave the same way, but I don't really think it's... the thing is, it's much more true for music that we want to be like that, and I'm still like that for music. I've learned lots of songs from the fake book in terms of chord progressions for songs, but it's not the same thing as learning how to play guitar by listening to other guitarists or learning how to sing
because you're kind of
by listening to
basing...
singers.
You're learning the foundation of it and basing what you know off of it.
Yeah. So the thing is that's interesting to hear. The problem I have is I also want to do that with intellectual stuff. So there'll be some really complicated abstract topic, but I don't want to research it at all. I just want to find out just the gist of it, enough to argue the point as though I knew what I was talking about. But or I want to learn enough of it to render it not necessary for me to learn more, basically.
Are you an ENTP? What was your name again? Sorry.
Connor.
Connor?
Yeah, Connor.
See, I have a different experience in the music stuff than you guys do. For me, I would rather listen to music music I like a lot, and I used to sit and I would listen to it, and I would write down parts that I thought were like interesting and why I thought they were interesting and why I thought they worked. And I wanted to, like the way I approach, I guess, music, and I guess it goes over to intellectual things as well. I feel like if I identify the underlying pattern or principles which gave forth to that particular expression, then I can resalvage those to give forth to my own expression. And I think that's how I operate when it comes to music, because for me it doesn't seem like, for me pushing the boundaries isn't really something that I'm occupied with. For me, I feel like there's already beauty that's been there, and I would like to resalvage that. Not like an anachronistic, sluggish perpetuation of something, but rather a new form based on the same perennial principles. So that's kind of how I view like making music personally. But yeah.
So if I understood any of that, is it kind of like it's like if you're doing an English essay, you just find two essays on the same topic and then kind of rewrite it into one?
No, I think that would be like paraphrasing. I think it's like, it's more like like identifying the general ideas of what's underneath, whether it be like something intellectual or something. And with music, it's more abstract because it's not even. Sometimes you feel things that you can't put into words. At least that's how I feel.
Yeah.
And in order to recapture that mood, it requires you to identify the pattern and what they were trying to accomplish holistically in using different tones together, using different chord progressions, things like that. And that inspires me to create different things that I guess manifest similar moods, similar emotions, things like that. And that's how I approach music. I guess intellectual stuff is similar, but it's specifically with music, it's different than that.
I've just read the comments. It's hilarious. Fueling my ego a bit.
Yeah, that's the FE juice straight in the vein right there, huh?
I don't know. I think it's my experience that's helped a lot. And I mean, I don't want to like talk as if I am like anywhere near perfect, because I still do stupid things from time to time. I still go off the chain sometimes. But for the most part, I don't know. I think about things a lot, as best I can.
You try not to fuck up. You try not to. You try to avoid ENTP mistakes, which is a smart thing to do.
Okay.
I'm very impressive for a 17-year-old individual of any type, but especially ENTP. But I want to go into this, which is what's that? What's that, dog? Go.
Never take Adderall, Connor. Never do it.
Why?
Hey, don't.
Because it'll make you talk quicker and you won't be so goddamn articulate.
Well, regardless, the thing is, it's interesting. None of us know what the future will bring for any of us, obviously, and so it's like there's certain amounts of things that are perceived as success, and so like right now, everybody here is, everybody in the world is perceived as successful on some vectors or others. Like on some criteria, I guess you'd say, or some measuring stick of some sort that they say, okay, well, I'm successful at this, I'm less successful at that, I'm more successful at this, less successful at that. The thing is, different types of things result in different amounts of public engagement with that success. So if I could be the most successful person in the world at bringing unhealthy cactuses back to good health, but it's not going to be the most exciting. People aren't going to give me a whole lot of affirmation for that unless they are somebody who really cares about their sick cactus. But even then, some people will just be mad when the cactus dies. They'll be like, fuck you, you said you could heal my cactus. And yeah, but the point is that that's not the point. The point is that some skills are more celebrated than others, and so is useful in life to be endowed with skills that are celebrated. And it's very useful in life also to remember that other people are endowed with skills that are just as significant in scale, but on a less communicable channel, and thus it position oneself accordingly, I guess.
Yeah, certainly. I think there are some ways you can feel like you're on the right path, so to speak, without it necessarily being something you can, put into words, right? Like something that you just feel like you're. It's kind of like what before we mentioned about the feeling of like, like getting the hotel room, things like that, where it's like you feel like everything has gone right. You feel like that you were successful in some way that you can't necessarily put in the words because it just wouldn't make sense.
Well, I think it's fair to say you're rewarded for the goodness in general. Good character, good behavior is rewarded by the universe. Not actively rewarded. It's sort of a natural consequence of behaviors that set the right slabs in motion. The slabs representing the various big narrative chunks that comprise our own life history for ourselves, and that represent at least somewhat what others' perceptions of us likely are, and those and their perceptions of other things, and these slabs interact in various ways that limit the directionality of our behavior, so that I might make mistake X, and then that precludes me from drawing certain conclusions. If I might make mistake Y, precludes me from taking certain paths forward. If I seize opportunity Z, it might open up pathways that otherwise wouldn't be in any other circumstances available. So it's like, and those things are time delayed, right? Like the outcome of your behaviors is almost always time delayed. It's like karma, but it's not actually karma. It's more like the other shoe dropping. The other shoe is always dropping, and it's either in time with the beat or it's out of time with the beat. If it's out of time with the beat, you start to stumble.
Yeah. Do you think there's a universal way everyone can behave to manifest that sort of correct slabs in motion?
Yeah, I do. I think it's basically the deontological principle, which is to say, it's not selflessness. That would require altruism. It's the deontological principle of treat others as ends in themselves rather than as means to an end, which means don't use other people for your own purposes. As an ENTP, this is a challenging principle to adhere to because we're famous for gathering. I've read this one description on the internet somewhere. It says, "We'll gather a group of followers, usually younger." Well, that's an interesting description because look at what we're doing right now. Except I wouldn't deem anybody a follower, right? I would deem everybody a participant in an ecosystem of discourse that I set up almost incidentally, and that necessarily reflects my basic life philosophy of autonomy, egalitarianism, liberty, and a rights-based, justice-based framework.
I see how, acting on... I agree that you can't really use, selflessness or altruism as a basis for living a just or virtuous, life. Because, if you act in... There's going to be bad results, even if you make the good decision sometimes, Sometimes bad results are merely aberrational. And it kind of just reminds me of, I think a good metaphor would be let's say you have a temple, okay? There are many ways you can destroy a temple. There are many ways you can mess up the historic representation of it going to the future. But if you have to build a temple, there's only a few ways you're going to be able to accomplish that, and it's going to require similar principles that are evident with each homologous form, And I think that's kind of how ethics works. I mean, I don't think I could really codify that in any meaningful way, but it just seems like if you put justice without into the world, it kind of finds its way back to you in weird ways, and it might not even be directly or rather overtly, It's really strange.
Hello.
Greetings, Taylor.
Evening, fellas.
Speaking of
Executive
Taylor,
ordinance.
Speaking of Taylor, Eric, you said something. I just read up, but you said that was chaining NE.
Yeah.
What's that mean?
It means that you are normally ENTPs have a lot of associative sparks going on all the time. So everybody to some extent or another draws associations from what the other people are saying. But ENTPs do it to the maximum degree on every little detail. So where INTP might draw this association on a general idea of something and then start thinking about that idea in more depth. That's how INTPs drift off in their head while somebody's talking. Whereas ENTPs will instead start drifting off about first the word which, and then the phrase for the fun of it, and then some other thing, and then by the time they get to the end of where they're going to say the thing they've been thinking about, they've actually thought about 6 different things. They can't remember any of them, so they say something new.
Yeah, that's about right.
But everything's important.
All
don't
of
forget
them.
what-
Yeah.
Yeah.
In other words, basically, in the process there, and the last thing we say that we, because we didn't remember any of the good things we said, we thought of, that's like a silver bar. But all the ones that we forgot are all gold bars. We'll remember them later in the conversation, and we'll likely, if they're golden enough, we'll reject the flow of the existing conversation and say, I want to go back to that thing earlier that I forgot. It was this, and it was great.
Yeah, definitely.
Carry on.
My wayward son.
I don't know. Were you here earlier, Taylor, when I called bullshit on your bullshit? Yeah. Well, you called bullshit on me. And I had to call bullshit on that.
I was not here. I would remember that. Bullshit.
Okay, well, that's what I'll make sure I'll tell you. Because when I said I have to go back to work, you said bullshit. And I said, okay, well, maybe I don't have to, or I should go back to work. But then I was in the car, I realized I did have to go back to work because I had to pay Felix. So, bullshit on your bullshit.
The bullshit wasn't actually an accusation of bullshit. It was more a fast attempt to get a word in before you could actually close the button so that you had to think about it. Which, it worked. You were thinking about it in the car.
It did. Because I interpreted it as you meaning you don't have to go back to work. You can stay here and chat for longer if you wanted to. And
No.
I was like, well, I guess I could, but I really couldn't. That's the point.
But you really could have. Felix would have been fine.
Well, okay, that's true. But I mean, I had no. Well, okay, but I have to is that's a high standard to hold me to. I mean, in a more colloquial sense of really, really should.
One dude waiting on you. You've disappointed one person before by not showing up. Probably a regular occurrence in life.
Okay, well, and I have also done this. Told Felix, can you come to my house to get paid instead of me driving back to work over there?
Really?
So I could have done that too. But, okay, fine, you win the point.
I know.
You know what was interesting, though, is I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to throw that under the bus. I'll leave that alone for now. Regardless, I'll tell you elsewhere. Okay, it's not because I just don't want to. I don't want to make a mess here. So,
Type in the chat privately.
oh yeah, private chat. Okay, man.
God. Zach, your hair.
And Taylor first. Hey, Connor.
Yo.
Do you have like a website or anything with music?
I have a SoundCloud. I'll link it one sec.
SoundCloud. Awesome.
But what happened? What did Taylor say? He broke up for me.
I said your hair has gotten more pimp since the last time I saw you.
Yeah, it was an accident. I was shaving my beard and accidentally went too far up, and I had to compensate, and I ended up cutting the whole thing off pretty much, except for the top.
You look like Corey Taylor.
I look like a hipster.
You look like a hipster Corey Taylor.
Corey Taylor's not a hipster. There's some bad shit about him.
That's why I said he looked like a hipster Corey Taylor instead of just saying he looks like Corey Taylor.
By the way. Have I talked about this to you or just thought about it?
What is it?
Eh?
I think Corey Taylor is an ENTP.
Maybe.
I don't know much about him. I've listened to some of Slipknot before, and what's the other band that he's in?
Stone Sour.
Stone Sour. Yeah, that's the one where it's like, damn, I forget that song. It's a pretty popular song.
Through Glass.
Yes.
I was gonna let you suffer out there for a while. To think of Google.
What do you think he's an ENTP for?
Watch an interview with him.
I recently found out my sister's an INFJ. We don't get along very much.
Why? Does she not try? That's probably the problem.
She's like, I don't know. I mean, first of all, it was funny because we checked out, like, she went to see famous people that were like her or had that personality type, and Hitler is one of them. So, and then Osama bin Laden and like really fucking bad people. So, and there was like
also Carl Gustav Jung.
Yeah, well, there was, and then fucking some guy out of the Beatles and shit. But anyways, yeah, I don't know why we don't get along. My mom's an ISFJ, and I get along with her a lot better.
Yeah.
My
My dad's an ISFJ.
Mm.
Well, Ken,
My dad's probably something like me. My dad's probably an ENTP or something. We don't get along at all, so I don't know.
Unify says I might be in trouble. Why is that?
No.
With Connor? Why would I be in trouble with Connor?
What?
He's talking about the INFJ thing. Like, if you were an INFJ...
Oh, I'm INFJ scum? Okay. Oh, Connor seems pretty cool. If him and his sister are having issues, it's probably sibling-related issues.
I mean, we saw it. We get along, but there's so much shit we just don't understand each other.
Well, the way I see, like, even in close proximity, I feel like no matter the type, you're going to have, like, those rough interactions with. You know, I feel like that's an inherent part of humanity, especially if you live with someone. Even if you're, like, I feel like even dual types are still going to argue, you know? I mean, conflict is just natural. But,
yeah, there's conflict.
Yeah, I think siblings, especially, if you grow up with siblings, like, I don't even think it would matter what my brother and I's types are. We just argue so much, you know? Like, brothers are just like, it's just ever since we've been born, you know? It's always
but I think there's a difference. Sometimes it's not about understanding each other. It's just about you wanting the same shit, or, you know, it can be things like that. But me and my sister, there's so much shit that she be on, and she, like, because INFJs, from what I researched them, they seem to form opinion consciously, but they'll form a judgment, and they kind of retain that as their truth or something like that. And that's kind of, I see that a lot of her. She just doesn't, she'll never ever let me break down the shell. She'll just repeat and repeat.
Well, that's just naughty of her. She needs to...
Yeah, I don't think it's the type even. It might be just her as well.
I mean, there is some truth to the binary thing, though, where it's like, you know, you have who's on the outside and then you have who's on the inside.
Yeah.
It's like...
She's also, like, very not social. She really doesn't like to ever talk. She doesn't want to make friendships with people outside of the family, really. She does not want to talk to them.
I mean, I'm probably one of the more expressive and social The INFJs I've seen anyway. I've seen a few INFJs that are sort of recluses in some way, but I'm of the opinion I don't think that's particularly healthy. I think you have dominant NI, but the focus is people. So it's like just staying up in your own head doesn't really work all that well.
Well, I mean, isn't FE how they implement their ideas? So they're going to use like NITI to build their paradigm, kind of use FE to implement ideas. Is that how it works?
Right, FE and SE, and it's like if you don't have an actual extroversion of your ideas and you don't actually interact with people in the physical world, then you're just stuck in your head crafting your own idea of what you think reality should be, and then every time anything happens in life, it triggers that idea, and it's like, oh no, this is, life's just difficult and it's hard. It's because there's some standard that you got going on of how you think things ought to be, and then of course life's not meeting up with that because you're not checking it with reality.
I'm in the later stages of destroying an INFJ's paradigm.
Well, it sounds like it's a long time coming. I'm not even like, Taylor, you should not. I'm like, yeah,
No, it's totally deserved. It feels.
I don't know what personality type my sister is, but it's like not since we were kids. Like when we were kids, we had arguments a little bit more, but even then, it's like we very rarely have serious arguments. It's like just things are fairly chipper.
To each other.
What's that?
Talk to each other.
Not so much
I
anymore.
answered that question in the original thing. I put it at the very bottom. I anticipated the question and pre-answered it. You didn't read the last sentence of it.
Well, I kind of skimmed and things are happening. Will you just look at all this reading in that tiny little chat box? Just talk.
Yeah.
I'm gonna head out.
I don't know why we switched to private. That was dumb of me to switch.
I gotta go
to private
college as
channel
well.
and talk about anything at all. So anyway,
Come
the
back.
thing is, Nick.
All right, see you.
That's,
Are you leaving?
Yeah, I gotta go college.
All right.
Look, here's
Bye-bye.
the thing, Nick. You say this first private message you send me is just ridiculous, dude. Like as though this is anything other than more fighting words, right? You say you weren't lying in your mind, and that you should have considered the implications of your actions to my personal health.
Uh,
I
Are
get
you
a lot out of this.
Are you talking to the recording or to?
I'm talking to Nick.
He's in here.
Yeah, he's in there. Yeah.
Okay.
That I get a lot out of this, and even if you did do what I thought you did, you're still a good person, and that's what matters. No, Nick. This is about how you have zero ethics because you don't have a standard to determine when it's okay to judge, to accuse somebody of something. You're still acting as though it's possible, it's true, first of all, which is ridiculous. You're second of all saying that, I should have had pity on you because you're in poor health, which is ridiculous. Earlier, you suggested that I had lost sleep over this before I called you on it. You additionally suggested that I was distraught in the video response about this, even though I clearly wasn't distraught about anything, and the extent that I was emotional was about when I was talking about my team. So you do nothing but misrepresent shit. Even when you were trying your best, as it appeared to be for a little while there, you were trying to get out of that. This thing here, the very last thing you say where you're like, not fond of the idea that I attack someone's character. And for that, I am sorry, and that's something to respect to boot. Okay, well, fine. Those words are acceptable words. Now, do they relate to anything besides just you're decided to say them?
Hold on. Is he responding in private chat?
Yeah, he's doing private chat shit. I'm done with private.
Get off.
Taylor's like, I can't have my fun if it's private.
There's like, yeah.
That's like having Christmas for only one of your kids. That's being mean to Taylor.
Yeah, well,
It feels
I read it, so I don't know.
code of the.
Why does that shit need to be said privately? What are you trying to accomplish by making it private? There's nothing I need to hide at all about this. I have zero desire to hide anything. And to the extent that your words are words of truth and actual adherence to some sort of ethical standard, you don't need to hide anything either. But to the extent that your words are untrue or ignore ethical standards, then they need to be made public as well, because that helps you to see eventually the mountain of evidence in front of your face that you have a serious moral disability.
Look, if you are arguing a point and you can't do it public and you have to hide it, you lose by default. There's no possible way you could be right if you're keeping your arguments to a private chat.
I am not arguing a point at all. I said I was going to admit defeat. And I still find my original, the theme of what I was arguing is still true to me, and will be. Now, should I have vetted it with more logic, and should I have said something? No, probably not. Should I have continued arguing it as long as I did? No, probably not. Do I think I had good points? Yes, I do. Do I think the aftermath of it all and Eric's reaction was honest in how he was parsing my argument? No. Do I think that it was poor taste and I shouldn't have done it? Yes. Do I think I have ethical framework at which I abide by? Yes. That was the motivating factor in the beginning.
How many of those things matter?
Okay. Well, okay.
I don't even know what the was.
Yeah, I wasn't arguing anything in private chat other than stating what the fuck's up about it, from my perspective.
So you haven't answered any of my points, have you? You just keep talking, but you don't say anything.
I don't want to. Frankly, I don't want to answer points. It's been a rough.
But you keep wanting to make arguments and disguise them as something else, as though you're going to get away with it, right? Like you keep saying things like,
"I'm not trying to get away with it. I'm not going to participate in an argument like that."
Nick, you said in this message, you should have behaved differently out of concern for my health. You know what that means.
Because ethically, it's not nice.
Nick, no, you don't care about that, do you? Come on now. Let's see if we can be honest for once. Can you do that?
I am being honest. Until you do shit like this.
No, you're not.
Okay. Well, I'm all right with being painted as something different than I am. We can create a persona now, if you'd like.
Nick.
Tell me
right.
who is Nick?
Is that a question?
Yeah. For Eric, he's making claims, and I'm just going to start accepting claims from now on.
Why don't each of you one at a time make one statement that is the premise of what you want to end your pissing contest with, the piss wars. We'll call it the piss wars.
I already did that with my statements.
That's way too many.
Let's take turns. You need more than one? Let's take turns. You go first. Go ahead, make a statement. Or start an argument chain. Let's walk it out to the end. That'd be nice.
You at all. It's 5:30 in the morning. I feel regret. I feel that I was still not wrong in thinking what I was thinking, but wrong in saying what I was thinking. And it's about the gist of it.
Okay, here's my statement. If you believe that I did something, then first of all, you're missing the point about what the problem was that day. It was that you guys were being douchebags throughout the day. That
Who?
message, whether or not it was correctly attributed to you guys or not, was one example of your day full of douchebaggery. It was nothing special or significant beyond that. Your story is a lie. It is bullshit. And your explanation about why you tell the story is a lie. You're lying.
You're lying that I'm lying.
Except the thing is, for you to be telling the truth, you'd have to seriously believe a story that makes no sense at all, or
Made sense.
Well, hold on. Was that so, Nick? Was that like an apology, or was that like a?
I've been trying to apologize. I
Is that an
think that I intuitively was thinking something, and I had logicked it all out in my mind. Now, whether I should have said it or whether it really is the reality, I don't think I should have said it. Or if I did, I think I should have said it in a different way, and asked Eric, and not so just done it completely differently. And as far as whether it was true or not, I don't think it could be proven, so I think I need to move on mentally. But I certainly have the logic for it all worked out in my head.
but why
So
can't
is
you
that
tell
an
us any of
apology?
that logic then?
Is that an apology, or is that as a continuing?
I want to continue, personally, Taylor, I want to continue until we make it clear exactly what his logic is, so we can all see it. All right? Because
I'll
if
make a video.
I want
make
you
a
to,
video.
hold on, I want to make clear why I want to hear this, and I'll let you talk and give us your logic. Okay? We're going to pin it down one point at a time, okay? 1 point at a time. And we're going to pin it down as to what it is your point is, okay? Go ahead. What's the logic?
No, I've already tried that with you, and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible.
Is it because
Not-
I was being illogical?
I'm not going to.
Your agenda. Now, you know,
Sure.
what?
Oh, I thought you wanted to say something, but listen.
No.
So
Over here, eating my peppers.
you've made the claim that your logic is sound, and that you still should have said something, and that your reason for thinking it was good, and that you've tried to tell me the logic before, and it didn't go well. You've had multiple opportunities to tell the logic before, and you've recently said your story has changed now. That you understand it differently now. You misrepresented it. You misrepresented it at first. That you misrepresented it at first. You didn't quite
Then why
express it well.
would I continue to argue the point?
What?
If I wanted to apologize and move on, then why would I continue to argue the point?
I don't know why you continue to argue the point, but if you're going to continue to argue the point, then you need to tell me what the logic is.
I refuse.
Okay, so then when you say here that the answer suggests, when you say here
You can't-
that I plan on admitting defeat and picking a poor battle that I still believe was plausible and feel it definitely has a good chance of having had happened, right? You say this. I ask you now, do you have any logic to justify saying that?
Yes. And you can go
Are you
through the
willing
video.
to tell? If you wait, hold on. Do you have any logic? I'm sorry, let me rephrase the question. Do you have any logic you're willing to tell us to justify saying that?
Right now, no.
Okay. Are you concerned about my health?
No.
So were you lying when you said you should have taken the implications of your actions better when it comes to my personal health, Eric's personal health? Were you lying
Do
when you
I
said
think
that?
do I think that this channel and that your YouTube thing, do I think that they have an impact on your health? Yes. On your
Nick,
personal well-being? Yes.
Nick,
How?
you're a fucking piece of work, dude. At this point, I don't know.
What could you be?
I don't really particularly want to hear your voice. It's kind of
What was the original
syrup.
statement?
The syrup is just overwhelming. You know.
What was the original statement? I'm just catching up. This has nothing to do with YouTube. With me trying to sort shit out for you two.
The original statement about what?
That caused you two to bleh.
Is that what they call it in the NTP world?
The original statement, I guess, was Eric definitely did that, or something along those lines. I gotta get some water. I'm dying of thirst.
My thing was an opportunity presented itself, and Eric very well could have. It would have been, to me, it has the most motive to have riled up doing some trolling, and then also saw the opportunity to come in and calm the negative vibes and the fuckery that had been afoot.
So
And
did you
also-
accuse him of trolling his own room?
Do what?
Did you accuse him of trolling his own room?
Yeah, he did. That's fine. That's possible.
I mean, I'm trying to find out what the start is, and both of you gave like not real complete answers.
Yeah. Well, look. What happened was a message was sent to Lightbulb that was sent anonymously, or actually, I think more than one message was. She said, but she sent me one as an example, and as a private chat, and said, and she sent it because I had come into the room. I think this is the order of operations. I don't know exactly, but she said, I think because I came into the room and I said, I felt bad about maybe coming down too hard on Kevin with the fucktard stuff, right? So then she sent me this message and said, I received this. And I said, I don't remember exactly what I said, something along the lines of, okay, cool, or thanks for letting me know, or something like that. And I did absolutely nothing. Is what I did. It's nothing.
And also, it was skeptical of me as to why I told Eric that the Always Open Room wasn't recording audio right when I had offered, or I had asked him to come into the other room. And the way he said it was quite ridiculous. And then there was no audio. Told him about it. He said, "Well, I don't think you're right about that. I hope you're not right, but yeah."
Wait, hold on. Wait, hold on a second. Are you talking about the audio in the Always recording room wasn't working when he asked you to come in?
Right.
So what's the issue there?
It was not recording right after the drama was unveiled about the text messages. And when he came in and
I was so fucking pissed when I found out that thing had no audio. Well, actually, I wasn't that pissed, but I was disappointed because
the meeting saves transcripts.
I'm just trying to remember because I was there that night. I just don't I don't remember a whole lot about it. All I remember is Nick wanted to talk to you. So then you went and talked.
Here's the event. Eric calls Nick's buddy fucktard. Someone's sending lightbulb messages.
No, I've heard all this. It was just I didn't know what the problem was.
Accuses Eric of sending the messages.
of setting up a whole scheme by which I sent the messages for the purpose of creating a commotion, but which was already well created by their douchebaggery anyway. By the way, this caused additional commotion was fairly minor. The commotion that was there was about the douchebaggery as a whole. Okay, so he and his friend create a big commotion in the room, and part of that commotion was one thing that may have been that was sort of attributed to them, but not necessarily. But there's not clear evidence that it was them, right? And that he seized upon that one element of the whole day, and suggested that I engineered this one element in order to create a commotion, in order to come in and save the day. However, he hasn't answered my point. He hasn't answered my point about the fact that I didn't do anything until he came into the room and asked me to go to the private room, to which he says something irrelevant that's not responsive to my point. It's about the audio. That's not responsive to my point, Nick.
I have a theory. I think that... Shit, where'd it go? Oh, well. I think that it was Nick and his buddy. Nick didn't like getting called out and did a diversion pushback, which normally works, but it didn't blow things by as it should have, and now we're stuck defending something that didn't really have much faith in it in the first place.
Right. Well, and he can't really abandon it entirely at this point without conceding all the credibility damages. But what he doesn't seem to understand is he can't possibly do anything but worsen the credibility damages without conceding that he was lying the whole time.
But I can't do that because that would be lying.
Except you've already shown that you're quite comfortable with that, Nick. You've shown that you're quite comfortable with that already. I have many examples of many contradictions. At some point, one of those is a lie, Nick.
Conceding that you're wrong doesn't... I mean, you can't... Saying that you're wrong about something doesn't mean it's impossible. If you're implying that you didn't lie because it could be possible, that's not.
No. I cannot say that I was lying when I did not think I was lying and wasn't lying about anything other than anything that I was saying. Anything that I was saying, I wasn't lying about.
So how much did you research me to see if I met the qualities that you attributed to me?
Talk to you enough. I know that you're capable of sporadic, intuitive, taking advantage of opportunity.
Does that mean that you think also I'm capable and have a common habit of taking advantage of it in a way that's unethical?
No, but I don't think you have to have that in order to have what I assumed happened.
Again, the fact that something is possible because somebody is possible, it does not mean it's probable. And the fact, even if it's probable, does not mean it's something you should believe. Just because you can come up with a crazy